The new divide no one is talking about. It isn't wealth, it isn't geography, and it isn't access to technology. A quieter divide has been forming, cutting across societies without headlines or protests. Most people don't see it, but it's already shaping who advances and who is left behind. Today, the real divide is between those who understand systems and those who simply use them. In a world powered by algorithms, protocols, and autonomous networks, comprehension has become the new form of leverage. To understand why this matters now, we have to look at how complexity quietly replaced privilege as the most powerful separator of outcomes. For generations, advantage came from position, education, capital, connections. But digital systems rewrote those rules. Access became global, tools became open, participation became permissionless. On the surface, opportunity looked more equal than ever, and yet results grew more unequal. The reveal begins with complexity. Modern systems don't exclude people directly, they overwhelm them. Interfaces look simple, but logic runs deep beneath the surface. Incentives hide behind abstractions. Outcomes are determined by rules most participants never read, let alone understand. Those who do gain disproportionate influence without ever appearing powerful. This divide doesn't announce itself. It shows up in who anticipates outcomes and who reacts too late, who understands risk and who absorbs it, who designs systems and who lives inside them. Knowledge quietly compounds, while ignorance compounds cost. As decentralized finance, automated governance, and algorithmic markets expand, this gap widens. There are no barriers to entry, only barriers to comprehension. And unlike traditional inequality, this divide doesn't look unfair at first glance. Everyone has access, everyone can participate, but not everyone can navigate. The result is a new hierarchy, invisible but decisive, not built on status, but on understanding. Not enforced by authority, but by consequence. And most people don't realize they're already on one side of it. As this divide deepened, its effects became more visible in outcomes rather than intentions. People entered the same systems, followed the same rules, and used the same tools, yet emerged with vastly different results. Some anticipated shifts before they happened. Others learned only after consequences arrived. The system treated everyone equally, but equality did not produce equal experiences. The conflict emerged when it became clear that access was no longer a problem. Education wasn't missing. Information was everywhere. Tutorials, guides, explanations, all freely available. Yet understanding lagged behind. Knowing how to click buttons was not the same as knowing how incentives interacted beneath them. Participation created exposure long before comprehension caught up. Those who understood system dynamics began shaping outcomes without visibility. They adjusted parameters, positioned capital, designed mechanisms. Their influence was structural, not performative. Meanwhile, others followed surface signals, yields, trends, narratives, unaware of the forces moving underneath. By the time results appeared, the advantage had already compounded elsewhere. Institutions unintentionally reinforced the divide. Interfaces were optimized for ease, not understanding. Risk was abstracted away. Complexity was hidden to encourage adoption. But in hiding it, systems removed the very signals people needed to protect themselves. Users felt confident until reality corrected them abruptly. Emotionally, frustration grew. People blamed manipulation, unfairness, or bad actors. Rarely did they see the true cause. The system hadn't cheated them. It had simply rewarded deeper understanding. And that realization was uncomfortable because it offered no villain confront, only a gap to cross. Communities responded unevenly. Some focused on education, tried to make complexity legible. Others doubled down on speculation, hoping to outrun understanding. A few recognized that literacy itself had become the most valuable asset of all. Not credentials, not capital, but the ability to reason about systems before interacting with them. This divide was not enforced by exclusion. It was enforced by consequence. And the more automated the world became, the more unforgiving that enforcement grew. The question looming ahead was no longer about fairness of access. It was about whether society could close a gap defined not by opportunity, but by comprehension. As the gap widened, its psychological weight became impossible to ignore. Those who understood the systems moved with quiet confidence, rarely reacting emotionally to volatility or disruption. They expected change. They modeled it. For them, uncertainty was not a threat, but a variable. For everyone else, the same uncertainty felt like chaos. The conflict sharpened when moments of crisis exposed a divide in real time. Sudden market shifts wiped out participants who followed surface-level signals, while others repositioned calmly, already anticipating the outcome. Governance decisions passed that surprised most users, yet aligned perfectly with incentive structures visible only to those who had studied them. The system had not changed. People's awareness of it had. This created a growing sense of alienation. Many felt as though they were playing a game whose rules kept changing, even though the rules had been visible all along. Trust eroded, not because the systems were dishonest, but because understanding felt inaccessible. Complexity became its own form of power, one that didn't announce itself and couldn't be regulated away. Institutions struggled to intervene. Traditional remedies for inequality, subsidies, protections, restrictions, were designed for systems with clear levers and human discretion. Automated systems offered neither. They responded to logic, not policy. Any attempt to shield participants from consequences risked reintroducing centralized control, undermining the very openness that defined these environments. Inside communities, a quiet stratification emerged. Educators, analysts, and system designers gained influence. Their words carried weight because they revealed structure, not because they held authority. Others clustered around narratives, hoping insight could be borrowed rather than earned. But understanding did not transfer cleanly. It required effort, time, and failure. Emotionally, this was the hardest realization. The new divide was not imposed by force. It was earned through engagement, and that meant it could be crossed, but only by those willing to slow down, learn deeply, and accept discomfort along the way. The build-up reached a critical moment when society began to recognize that this divide would not close on its own. Automation would continue accelerating. Systems would grow more complex, not less, and without a shift in how people learned to interact with them, the gap would only widen. The question ahead was no longer whether this divide existed. It was whether humanity would treat understanding as optional or as essential infrastructure in a world where systems decide outcomes faster than emotions can keep up. The turning point came when the divide stopped being invisible, not because it was announced, but because its consequences became impossible to ignore. Outcomes grew too consistent. The same patterns repeated. The same people adapted, while others cycled through confusion and loss. The system wasn't random. It was selective, quietly, mechanically, and without apology. The climax revealed a hard truth. The new divide was not about intelligence or privilege. It was about engagement. Those who treated systems as environments to be studied gained agency. Those who treated them as tools to be used absorbed risk blindly. The gap was not enforced by exclusion, but by indifference. The systems did not punish ignorance. They simply did not protect it. In the aftermath, something shifted. Understanding began to be seen not as expertise, but as survival. Literacy became a form of self-defense. Communities that thrived were not the loudest or richest, but the most curious. They questioned assumptions. They traced incentives. They learned slowly, deliberately, and continuously. The resolution reframed progress itself. Access was no longer enough. Participation was no longer neutral. In a world governed by autonomous systems, awareness became the deciding factor between leverage and exposure. Those who learned how things worked stopped fearing change. They expected it, and in expecting it, they regained a measure of control. This divide will not close through regulation alone. It will not disappear with better interfaces. It closes only when understanding becomes a shared priority, taught, practiced, and valued as much as opportunity itself. Because the future will not be divided between those who have access and those who do not. It will be divided between those who understand the systems shaping their lives and those who never learn why outcomes keep repeating. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.